Stardate 10132022, because I forgot to do the calculator again. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast covering new and classic Trek. I'm Lieutenant Commander Mina Vesper, aka Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes.
And here's my pun. Like I screwed it up already. I was gonna say like my unlikely transporter accident falls to touch it. That's
perfect.
I'll get good at this. I apologize. Like I'm still.
Listen,
I'm just.
I had a good one like 5 hours ago, and then I forgot it, and I was like, I'll just be me. Yeah, it was clever too. I don't remember. I remember thinking, man,
you can tweet it later.
It's one of my most clever ones. This is going to be a good one, and then it was gone.
I mean, I feel like this is one of my like high blood pressure spikes. Like when coming up to this moment, like do I have a good one? Like I spend like the day. I don't spend any more time. I spend the day going like, oh, can I come up with something funny? And like it sucks when the answer is like, no, you can't.
There's nothing. Anyway, tonight we are covering the 8th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks, Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus. But first, a few reminders. Paul, can you tell the listeners where they can find us on the interwebs?
Yes, I'm here to remind the listeners that you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our links are StarTrekPod.co. And if you love this content and you want to do more, please consider joining our Patreon for just $2 per episode. Our Patreon is like patreon.com/Star Trek Pod.
Correct. You did it, Clyde. How can people engage with us tonight on the live stream?
If you happen to be watching us live on your streaming platform of choice, then all you have to do is type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital Pod in the chat, and we will take a look at your comment, your question, your rant. And when we get to that special part of the night, and you'll know what it is when we see it, when you want to tell us what yours is, just type in capital H, capital F, capital HF, and we'll take a look at yours. But first, you'll have to see ours.
Right. Yes, you're going to have to hear us rant and rave into all of the things before we get to that point. But first, it's a big week in Trek news. We got a bunch of trailers, bunch of images, all kinds of fun stuff coming up. I am pretty excited. The disco trailer I thought looked great. It looks like we're getting some more time on alien planets. Looks like we're on a treasure hunt. I think there's literally also a puzzle box, which I think is hilarious because people talk all the time about how the seasons are always a puzzle box. Anyway, I find that funny. So I really enjoyed that. I also was creating some disco content after Star Trek Day and not getting any of it. So
yeah,
I was excited. I feel like I know for you two what piqued your interest the most, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
2 words. Deanna Troi. No, I'm just kidding. Sort of. The Picard trailer was mind-blowing. I mean, it is pure fan service. If you are a fan of the Next Generation, I mean, hello. And for those of you who've been watching the pod for a long time, you know that if you ask me who my favorite Star Trek character of all time is, the answer is none other than Geordi LaForge. And this is like the first time in a very long time it looks like we're going to get some Geordi. And I've got so many questions. Did you guys catch who was running the helm on the ship? Like who was at the con?
No.
So there's a moment in there. I caught it. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I could be wrong. But Picard goes like punch it or hit it or set the course LaForge, and a woman who looks like she could be his daughter immediately punched the code in and took off. And I was like, whoa.
I know his actual daughter is in the show. Like she's playing his daughter. His real daughter's playing his fictional daughter.
So I'm all excited. I was like, this is you got me. I'm in.
You got me at engage.
Pretty much.
No, I yeah, the trailer was it was hot. It was really, really hot. I thought one of the most interesting things was that Brent Spiner is going to be part of it, and he had said after season 1 of Picard that he is done playing the Data character.
I mean, technically, he's not playing Data, right?
Exactly. He's playing
Great. That was a great like, haha, gotcha.
and I was like, oh, this is so good. It's so, as I understand it, he's gonna be playing Lore, right?
Correct.
And I was going like, oh, I love Lore. Like he's been in like what 3 episodes, right? Like the intro, the the time where he meets his dad, and then the Borg episode. Those are only 3 episodes that I can think of. I might be missing something, but like he's so iconic.
Well, the lore of Lore is...
you see, you can do that on the fly. It takes me hours to do that.
He was in 4 episodes of TNG, and he his likeness was on a Lower Decks bubble bath bottle.
What was the 4th episode? Am I missing one?
Data Lore, Brothers, Descent Part 2.
Yeah, Descent Part 2. I put that as 1, but like
right.
but
it's technically
you're right. You're
two
right.
different seasons here, Paul.
Yeah, it's a season.
Cliffhanger.
Fair.
I mean, while he's not my favorite, there are times that I have found myself love Lorne over Lore. See what I did there?
We can stop now. That's the end of the episode, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's it for tonight. Goodbye. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, that was exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I think the panel looked like so much fun. It looked like everyone was having a great time. We also got some more previews for Prodigy, which I'm really excited for. That starts not next week, but the week after. So we'll get to dive into that. I know I have it on my list to kind of rewatch the first few episodes in preparation. But I think it's time we try to figure out the meaning of life and dive into this episode, perchance to dream. So Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus, was directed by Michael Mullen, written by Ben Rogers. And I think you all might know what time it is. It's time for some.
It's cold.
In here. It's time to get a little hot. Hot breaks. Oh, it's time for some hot breaks.
A little deep V.
Got a deep V moment.
Always good for the deep V.
Always good. Paul, what was your hot freak of this episode of Lower Decks?
Well, I have to say, like, I watched it. I watched it a couple times, and it's amazing. Like, I'm a sucker for like referential stuff. So like every little, so I'm just watching it over and over to find all the little bits of it. It's packed. It is dense. If you are a Star Trek aficionado and want to unpack all that stuff, it's full of stuff. It's crunchy goodness. So I was very, very happy.
The Easter eggs were colorful and there were many.
Yes, there were many. Definitely.
Clyde, what were your thoughts?
Well, I don't want to disagree with Paul. He's still new to the show and all, so I'll have to agree and say it was amazing. I absolutely enjoyed this episode. I got really excited about it. And I think coming off of last week's episode, this was a complete 180 in how I felt, right? I mean, whether it was Tendi or Boimler or just all the Easter eggs and the nods and the references, man, this was, you had action, you had ship battles. You guys know I love a good ship battle. It was good. And who doesn't love a good map on back fat? Like, classic. It works.
Flesh map.
So, yeah, flesh map. So I really enjoyed this episode. Yeah, great job.
Yeah, truly, I agree with both of y'all. This was a really fun episode. I love that they do these callbacks to the movies almost every season, and I enjoy it every single time. And I liked seeing Mariner in a bit of a supportive role this episode. I'm really excited for where we're going with Tendi this season. I feel like I'm always just so impressed with how much story they managed to get across in 30 minutes. It's truly like a show to watch to learn the art of editing, because it's not only jam-packed with jokes, but also with plot. And yet at the same time, I hardly ever feel like I've been rushed through something. So hats off this week. It was incredible. I really enjoyed it.
You know, there's a ton of like lines in here that were good. There's one in here that I liked, and I can't understand why. No one's gonna be like, oh yeah, that was a great line. It was just like, the horse is gonna bite you now. I just
it's one of those weird dream things, right? I also have I have a theory this week that I'm going to make a note theory about Boimler at the end. Just want to write it down so I don't forget, because my brain is mush today. So let's check out some hot freaks from the live stream commenters, watchers, listeners. Michael L says, this episode sets up a story arc for Tendy to become a command officer, and I'm here for it.
Totes, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like after we've seen Pirate Tendy, I'm now ready to see Captain Tendy. I feel like she is a good middle ground person who loves rules, but is ready to break a rule if needed. Do you know what I mean?
She is low key, like, the work that they've done to develop her character since, you know, early in the first season has been amazing. Like, Tendy's a lot of fun. Like, I get excited to see, you know, it's not like what hijinks she's going to get into. It's like, how are they going to, you know, show us more of her character this week? She's really turned out to be a great character.
Agreed. Let's see.
Like, you go.
I was going to say, Keen says, bravo, Lower Decks for bringing back George Takei back to Trek. It washes away the bad feelings from last week's episode.
The listener said it, not us. I'm just saying.
Choopy, what a ball of fun. I can't decide if it's my favorite. If my favorite things was using all the fan complaints from real life, or the little dog about just make a movie. It'll be good if it's Starfleet.
That's right.
That was a good one. Let's see. Not as good as last week. I know. I don't even understand it myself. Oh, Carolyn, hot freak, hot take.
Hot freak.
Not feeling it as much as our episode with Peanut Hamper, who they did an interview with the actress who voices Peanut Hamper, and it's really funny. I recommend going and watching it. I thought she did a really good job of having some fun with that.
I mean, I'm choosing Knick Knack over Peanut Hamper any day of the week.
Knick-knack. The knick-knack reveal.
I mean, that whole dialogue was funny, where, you know, Mariner kept calling, you know, knapsack. It's knick-knack.
The holodeck really went for it at this time. Okay, so bringing us back. So at the top of it, we get Boimler is making a sequel. He's trying to work out some feelings here in this episode, which we don't actually quite know at the top. He thinks he's just writing a fun sequel, and he's like, this is going to be a better movie than Mariners. I'm really excited about it. And then he goes to see Ransom and comes back in a particularly bad mood, which we later find out is that his transporter twin has died, and we'll talk about the plot twist of it all later. But he's now trying to seek the meaning of life and throws all plot devices to the wind. And Tendy and Rutherford get to follow his script while him and Mariner have to go off on a different adventure.
You know, one of the things that I've always found ridiculous about Star Trek is, like, for whatever reason, like, you're on a ship, and if you need to incapacitate the crew, just put some anesthetizine or neurazine in the air. It's like you have like this line of like poison gas running through all your ships at all times just to release. It seems like ridiculous, and that's how Boimler's double died by a leak of neurazine, which doesn't go like, oh, that's hilariously funny, and yet. The fact that
it happened to anyone.
It's right. The fact that it's plausible goes like, these are death traps.
Pretty bananas. I felt like Boimler's plot this episode felt very TOS, very Kirk searching for meaning of life, looking for God in so many different ways. And I enjoyed how they kind of played off of that. I always like the title sequences they do too. I think it's just so fun.
I mean, I think one of the things that makes this such a great episode is that have always been and probably always will be just enamored with the holodeck and what happens on the holodeck episode. And so this is one hell of a holodeck like episode, all in all. And the fact that they were able to break it up and do two, basically we almost felt like we got 2 holodeck episodes in one. Kudos, like very well done.
Yeah, and I really like the moment when Boimler's like, oh, okay, well, I have to go do this thing. I'll catch you up on what the rest of this plot is, and then you can watch the credits. And they make essentially the reference to is it scientifically probable for there to be the Kelvin verse?
That's right, exactly. That was so much good meta.
Which I thought, so kind of jumping ahead. So when we see Boimler see the Kirk mailbox, I thought it was potentially going to be the Chris Pine Kirk because they had made the Kelvin verse joke at the top, which I thought would have been funny. But I loved that it was George Takei. I was really, really excited about it.
It was excellent. All very. It always escalated in a way that I thought was really good episode.
Yeah. So if you were on the adventure with Tendi and Rutherford, would you be approaching it like a Tendi or like a Rutherford?
I mean, I think I would have been most likely approaching it like a Tendi, but that's because approaching like a Rutherford wasn't really an option until you saw Rutherford do it, right? Anytime that we've seen people interact with the holodeck, it's Comic-Con cosplay on steroids. Like people are really into it. There's costumes involved. There's a role play. Like it's a LARPing event. Like people are like really into this thing, right? And then Rutherford is like, all of a sudden you hear, it was like, I got hungry, so I stepped out and got some.
Gotta have chips.
I remember sitting there going, yeah, I guess if you're into a long like episode, what would you do? Like normally, what would you do if you weren't like super into it? You would grab a snack, right? Like you.
Yeah, I did just have this realization. So Paul, you weren't early on in the podcast. I was often talking about how I thought it was wild that there was no therapist on Discovery, and like everyone had so much trauma that there needed to be a therapist. And obviously, they heard my complaints and they solved that with Culber at this point. But I have now realized that the holodeck, I think for 90s and apparently now lower decks Trek is their therapy device in so many ways. Because I feel like we've seen so many characters throughout Trek use the holodeck for therapy. And now we've seen Mariner do it as well, even though now she's finally seeing a real-ish bird therapist. And then but even Tendi in this episode, essentially the holodeck provides a therapeutic environment for her to come to the realization that she does want to go on the command track.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if you had a way to work your trauma out, like, would you rather talk about it or would you rather punch through it? And I don't know what the answer is here, but in the 90s, the answer was the 90s would punch, shoot through it. That's all. So there's
still answer. Still a good answer.
Like, my favorite holodeck episode is Nth Level with Barkley. Actually not that, the one where we introduced Barkley, I'm sorry, where he's like, he has all the main cast as like musketeers, but all like Riker is short, Picard is like, everyone's a jerk, and like he's just so awesome. And it's like, oh, maybe it's sharing too much about me, but that's how I would deal with my trauma.
I mean, and we have Boimler, who we do tradition. I mean, even Mariner is like, oh, here comes the big speech where you're going to have them change their minds. And instead he's like, nah, we're punching people today. Like,
that's right. We're kirking it.
I thought that was a great line. Oh, we're gonna Kirk it. That works.
That works.
I mean, it's one of those things where I was reading an article. So as you guys know, I love learning and development and figuring out how people learn. So, at work, my team and I have been talking a lot about virtual reality. And we were reading an article that talks about a reporter went into a virtual reality space and just started interviewing people and had this interesting experience. And one of the things that she came back with was the idea of VR is you get to try on personalities and characters and do things that you might not do, that might not be socially acceptable, that you can kind of do. One of the most common things are sword play, lightsaber play, and guns, right? So yes, in a holodeck, which is VR on steroids and then some, we talk about what are you doing for therapy? You're slipping into a different character, maybe, a crime fighting detective named Dix, or, a jazz playing, trombonist. Like you're slipping into something, and then, when it's all said and done, you're punching people in the face. And then
hanging
you
out in
walk,
Da Vinci's workshop.
yeah, and then you walk out of you say arch, you walk out of the doors and you're back into your very button up Starfleet. I get it. Who needs a therapist? Besides, I don't think I could have a therapist that was that hot. A la Deanna Troy. I'm going to the gym and punching things. It's just me.
I did one of my
especially a hot one that can read your mind. Like that's just a bad idea. Sorry.
You're done. One of the things when you said arch, it reminded me one of my favorite things was when they would say arch, and if there were the black bars at the bottom because it was in widescreen, they would step over it. It's like those little freaking details is what makes me love Lower Decks like so much, because it is just like so layered with jokes. The other big kind of reveal in this episode is we hear Ransom giving Mariner her review, and it's like all good reports from everyone. And I feel it was a small moment, but it felt like something I wanted to remember, because we got 2 episodes left, and I feel like the chaos machine has to, like a wrench has to get thrown into this happy little family, right?
But are we gonna see chaotic Mariner, or are we gonna see promoted Mariner?
Or are we going to see a chaotic Mariner because she becomes a promoted Mariner?
I mean, that is true too. And there's a couple threads that have yet to be pulled. I can't remember the name, but the person who was the
the
Vosh,
archaeologist.
Yes. Yeah. The young Vosh.
Mm-hmm.
And then T'Lyn, the Romulan Vulcan.
T'Lyn.
Yeah.
And then we still have the mystery of Rutherford's eye implant that I feel like we've also started this season too.
I wonder if it'll be like a multi-season stuff. Like, sometimes shows will set up something in one season, pay it off like 2 seasons down. And I'm cool with that. Like, like there's enough, it's only 10 episodes. And so there's enough material that I feel like it could do that without me like losing my mind. Like, as far as the Mariner thing, like I think someone explained it to me once when they're talking about TVs versus movies. And like in a movie, you go from a person who is like, here's a person and they have a problem or they have a trait or they have something to overcome, and then they travel all the way to the end of of their journey. And then they solve their problem. They become that better person, and that's the end of it. Whereas on a TV show, you see a person, and they go through this adventure, and they come back to almost imperceivably the same person that they were. And one of the reasons why you do that is because you watch TV and movies for different reasons. One, in movies you want to see a journey. In TV, you want to see the same person kind of do the same things. And and if they do the same things, you can have infinite episodes theoretically. But if they grow too much, you finally grow to the end. So with that structure in mind, I feel like, you can't really have Mariner be too developed, or you kind of run out of plot for her, and then you wind up like the Brave New World kid, where you're like, well, we gotta write her off.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, because I'm fascinated by the commerce of television as well, right? Decisions that are made based on commerce and not necessarily the artistic storytelling. When we see series that say, "Hey, we're going to do 3 seasons, we're going to do 6 seasons, we're going to tell the story, and that's it." I get really excited and disappointed, because if it's really good, it's going to end, but you also know that we're going to see a journey. Sure. I guess that's why I'm kind of interested in Picard, because we know this is the final season. So it's like, okay, well, tell your story. I'm wondering, finish your story quickly, please. But with Mariner, I really do want to see her grow. And I think because in the Trek verse, there's so much, and we're starting out with them when they're lower decks. I think you can grow Mariner and evolve her for quite some time. And I think I would say let's move into more of a Grey's Anatomy standpoint, where people grow and evolve, and we get new characters and leave.
19 seasons.
That's right.
Listen, I am not going to complain about 19 seasons of any Star Trek episode ever.
Yeah. It would be kind of funny if at some point it becomes middle decks. Like, is there like a middle deck?
There you go. That'd be great. Yeah.
I love it. Let's do the whole thing. Middle decks,
upper decks,
command crew.
That's right.
Right. Senior staff.
Admirals.
That's right.
We follow them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there is I see what your point is, Clyde. I go like, it'd be great to see like this power up fantasy where you just watch Mariner just grow, and like a D&D character, you start from level 1 and go all the way to like super, like, archmage or whatever, like, so I would love that, but who has 20 years of like vision? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what their like greater plan is, but
I mean, if Doctor Who can do it, Star Trek can do it.
Doctor Who recycles Doctor Who every freaking 4 or 5 years.
Do it. Bring on new crew. We'll get a new.
But it's voiced by the same cast every time. It's just different characters as they get like promoted, and then they become background characters.
They walk through a portal and then they get rearranged somehow, but they're the same person but different.
Yeah. We'll get some time travel seasons. There could be a season that's like
timey-wimey.
The timey-wimey Jeremy Bearimy of it all. Where was I going to go with this?
What is the timey-wimey element in this one called?
It's something.
Chronogamy. That's right.
Chronogamy. And then the fact that they were explaining it, and Mariner's like, yeah, we got it. Like, that was perfect.
I also love, like, you can't have her be this hot and not have the love interest subplot.
There was a great moment. This was kind of like a masterpiece. What is it? Masterpiece theater, like the where you're getting this commentary like live that makes so much sense, but is also funny. Like, it's just great. Yeah.
I was like, the Easter eggs notes that I have are a page and a half long for this episode, and I know that's like not even close to all of them.
That's right.
But there was a couple of things that made me so much of this episode made me laugh out loud. At the Kataya being short for Kitty Hawk, I thought was like perfect 90s, like weird holodeck thing, pulls something random from history to make you have to deal with something. The like weird characters in the background, the skin map guy was hysterical.
Like Waterworld, but
like,
Space World.
Yes. Yeah, it was all so much. And then the like octopus who like saves them from the slime. And then they go back to the late 21st century to save the
the foundation of the Federation.
Yeah, it was. I liked all of the like. We just jump in and we'd see like the beginning of a scene of what Tendi and Rutherford were getting into, and like we got the badass motorcycle chase, but then we never really saw. It was always like, here's the top, and then oh, we'll get the bomb diffusion moment, but that's going to be kind of it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like, I think my favorite Shaxx line of the whole series was in this episode where, like, they go into like the opera house, the Sydney Opera House, like in the 80s, and these punks come in and try to mug them, and then Shaxx goes like, hey, we don't want any witnesses, and then and then jacks everyone up. I was good. It was awesome. I go like, okay, yeah, you built to that moment. That was the perfect Shaxx line. I love it.
Yeah, Fred Tatascore really nailed it. There was a couple of fun like names of things from the Chupi pointed it out. We had some name nods. We had the Tatascore 6, 5. I can't do Roman numerals. And the Shatanara as different planet names in the holodeck. Let's see what else the pod had questions about. I saw a few things popping off in here. Michael L. Pod, I like how Ransom is friends with the Onus the bartender, Matt the whale, but not the other whale.
I listen, I thought about that and I was like, because I rewinded that a moment and played it a couple times, and I was like, it's so random that Ransom, I am on a roll tonight, that would refer to his friends as like, was it like blank the bartender and Nurse Westgate? Like, I was like, dude, like these are your tight homies, and like that's how you refer to them.
That's
Like,
how he
I
sees
appreciate
them.
the reference, but like, man,
No, he's Ransom.
Yeah. Michael also said when the Hollow Cerritos travels back to the founding of the Federation, that scene was straight out of the last episode on Star Trek Enterprise. Sorry, Clyde.
listen, I listen as the crew
So I
knows,
got
I've watched a
faith
number
of the
of
heart.
episodes. Watched a number of episodes. I was okay with it.
I was going to say, poor episode for Stevens. Keen says, but Ransom didn't mention poor Stevens, who then gets rolled into the medical bay.
Oh, that's
'cause
right.
He leaned on the warp core.
Lean on the warp core.
Twice, and then the
Again.
twice in one day. Truly
dense. So thick with comedic goodness.
That was so funny. I mean, there are people who, if you aren't a true Star Trek fan, you would look at us and go, "Why are you guys laughing about this?" But when you think about this warp core that has always been like the center of technology and often the center of the ship, and it's always like, whew, and you think about it, and it listen, there's actually, if you have trouble sleeping, and you have the Calm app, they actually have a sleep sounds that is warp core. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. So you think about this warp core in 30 years of watching Trek. At no point has anyone ever actually tried to, I don't know, touch it. So the idea that someone would lean on it again is hilarious to me. I'm sorry, it's funny.
Yeah, and then when they get into the lab where the hot scientist is, there's what's the laser that Data and Geordi are testing next to the warp core in an episode of TNG.
A laser that they're testing. Oh,
yeah, it was like I don't remember. Someone
there's actually like there are a few things, like there's one where they're testing a phaser rifle that is a copy from the Romulans.
That might have been it.
That was in the that was in TNG, but they're oftentimes doing experiments with stuff too. So
phasers and lasers, yeah. I feel like it's one that I see referenced a lot where people are like, I can't believe they were testing this next to the warp core, and then they had it in the lab.
I love the Grafticon vibes in this movie. Like,
yes,
that was just just like the top secret, and then it has these like Commodore 64 effects.
Oh yeah, these graphics are amazing.
So yeah, no, I think there's nothing wrong with this episode. I take it back. I would say that if I had to quibble, it would like it would be for Rutherford, because like it's like you go to the Ren Fair, and then you have one person who just like is just being a jerk about it, like and just not into it, and like just going like, oh well, here's what we're doing, like I guess I'm gonna be on my iPhone, or like and like, why'd you come then?
Yeah,
like I just got off this hover bike, I did this huge action set piece,
I feel like he's having a good time, but he's not like it's more like if you ever play like a not World of Warcraft, Dungeons and Dragons, and you have the person like everyone's like pretty into it and maybe doing like fun voices and stuff, and then you have the person who's just like, all right, what's happening? I guess I'll roll the dice. But like they're having fun. But
do you want to be that guy? Do you want to be around that guy? I don't know. I think that guy's to me, yes, he goes like, oh, I didn't know this was that important to you, and to Tendi, and I get it, but like throughout the whole thing, like if you you're gonna be
the Cajun accent though in the beginning was
that was
funny.
great. That was great.
I was so hoping he was gonna keep it going. He was like, I'm done.
Well, because he starts off strong, like, I'm really into this, and then he just like checks out,
I like almost felt like that was like I don't know. It was probably scripted because these writers are great, but in my mind, I was like, perhaps in the booth they told him what the name of the character was going to be, and he was like, oh, okay, and like he tries it, and then he realizes that it's not going to be good, and that's when he's like, I think I'll just play it straight. Like, to me, that would be a fun booth moment. Yeah, there's so many. Oh, I wanted to ask, when you did see Boimler go down to the Kirk farm, and you saw the mailbox, did you think it was going to be a Kirk? Who did you think it might have been?
Honestly, I don't know that it quite registered to me, because I was kind of thinking there's no way Shatner's going to show up in this show. Like, I was like, there's zero chance of that. And so it just didn't like click. I was like, oh, well, what is this? I was not expecting George Takei, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised.
Like for me, like it's generations, right? Like, so I just assumed that we would see a Kirk. Like I think Shatner Kirk, when I think Kirk, because that's what my indoctrination has been. But yeah. So I guess I was expecting that just to be like as if this were some like no, like we didn't know it was a dream sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
We because easily been part of the holodeck. So
well, he was dead.
But we didn't know that. But we did not know that, right? So I thought it was still a holodeck, and I was like, oh, here's the after the God Rock, like fails them, like this is the next part of the holodeck program. But like I it's so much better that it was what it was, like although if I had another quibble, it's like a joke that I wanted for there to be at the God Rock, it was basically my favorite line in Star Trek V, which there are not many, but my favorite line is like, what does God do with a starship? And so if something had the God had said something, and then Mariner had go, well, what does God do with a starship? I would have lost my freaking mind.
So listen, I'm laughing in part because I'm thinking, which Kirk did I expect? At this point, probably Sam Kirk. But that's not why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the moment in the see, I'm laughing already. The moment in the sickbay where the doctor says, what is it? The holodeck is fake, but dehydration is real.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Dr. Tahana. She strikes again. Our big reveal, though, I did love that they're like, I hate when movies end on a cliffhanger, and then we have Boimler's twin waking up and joining Section 31, which I thought was just the funniest thing ever, because for so long we've been waiting for a Section 31 show and it keeps getting delayed or pushed back or whatever's happening to it at this point. And I just thought that was a very, very meta joke that I enjoyed.
So here's the question. Like, is the Boimler transporter, the Section 31, the one that was transported up, or is it the one that was on the shuttlecraft when they split? So because in a way, like, one of these Boimlers is Boimler Prime, if you will, and the other one is like a copy. So is it the copy that, isn't like kind of like went 31, or is it original Boimler that went 31? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, do
I
you
feel
guys
like
know?
we established pretty well that it's Prime
clone,
Boimler. It's the clone who's not on there. But my theory was, because they both technically died, is it still the same Boimler in each Boimler?
I don't know. You're blowing my mind. Like, did I miss somewhere where we knew which one was the quote unquote real one in that episode in season 2 premiere? Like which one was, because they're both, we have the, which one is the real Riker? The real our Riker is the one who we've been with all through those seasons. The other Riker, like, who was on that planet, is still Riker. You don't know which one is the Prime Riker, right? Or do you? I don't know. But so,
I mean, I guess you could technically make the argument either way, but I feel like they led us to believe Prime Boimler is the one who came back, because the other Boimler, like, essentially kept leveling up on the Titan.
Sure. I hear you. Like, I thought that too, but then I thought about it a little bit more, and I went through my Star Trek nerd rabbit hole, and
I mean,
here I am.
I went down the same one.
I went through the chronogamy.
The chronogamy.
Chronogamy.
Came out the other side. Yeah, I was like, y'all, there's so many Easter eggs I wanted to touch on. I thought the choo-choo being stuck in Rutherford's head was really funny. We also finally got to hear kind of the melody of the choo-choo song, which I feel like is new. Perhaps we'll get a full song at some point. There's also, what was this one? Mariner jokes that Boimler must have taken the Wigner Brinson acting class, which is like a reference within a reference. It's a reference to a member of the Cerritos crew who self-identifies as an actor, dancer, and singer. In Terminal Provocations, Boimler noted that Bingston Jr. conducted a one-man show where he played all of Jupiter's moons.
Wow, that's deep. That's a deep cut.
That's a deep cut.
Who is coming up with this stuff?
I know it's pretty good. Like, like koala smile on all of us, like that background bit.
Oh, and then the koalas, yeah. And then when they the dust off for Kitty Hawk is like, the Voyager instead of Voyager moment from the motion picture. All the Shah-Kari god creature vibes.
What was the city, like Shatanara?
Shatanara, Tatascore. It was wild. So much, so dense. Kyle at Trek News has like a pretty comprehensive list, but I feel like every time I check a different list, there's even more. The koala thing. WYSIWYG says, I think every time you get transported, you get copied. So I think there are 2 copies. Neither are Prime Boimler.
Thank you. I accept that. I accept that. That what you call it? That
theory.
That's right.
Yeah, and then the Defiant class ship at the end made me think of Thomas Riker. Yeah, I mean, it was very similar vibes to when the Titan swoops in and saves the Cerritos, right? But
like, I wonder if Thomas Riker is dead. Because like he was in Cardassian jail, and then the Dominion came over, and so like I don't imagine they were very happy with that.
Do you think that's why? Because I saw Frakes tweeted, because someone was like, "Oh, the final season And I think he said maybe not so final. And so maybe it's because he's still going to come back as something else. Who knows? Or are we getting, are they going to do like each one? There's like Picard, and then maybe there's like Janeway, and then there's like Riker, and then there's like, they just do like, they each get their own little 3-season spectacular.
I don't know, but they're all aging at the same time, right? So like, by the time like someone's gonna be really old when
I mean, they're all still younger than Patrick Stewart right now.
fair.
Facts.
That's right. I don't know, like, is there enough canon that you would want to watch a Riker TV show?
Yes. Sorry, did I say that too fast? Let me ponder that for a moment. Very good question, Paul.
Well,
now
like,
bring it up, I'll think and go.
Well, Clyde,
yeah,
I know you're a very big fan of a deep V.
It's not just that, but I'm the resident Riker nerd.
Clyde's read all the books.
I've read the Titan series books, and I enjoyed them.
Oh wow!
And so
no.
I think there's, So, but I think what that brought in is Riker. That, not to go too deep, but that ship, that crew, brought in new characters and also brought in characters from other ships, like a Tuvok. So yeah, I think you could definitely get a lot of kind of run out of Riker, right?
Sure, like possibly, like it's one of those things where, like, I've always felt like in the early seasons of TNG, you kind of thought Picard was the prime, but like Riker was going to be a really big thing. But then as TNG moved forward, I think Data became a favorite, and you can see that in the movies, right? Like even like in Star Trek 7, like there was a point where I heard that they were following Riker for a bit, and then as they're writing the script, and they were going like, you know what, where Picard goes, the movie goes, so we have to be with Picard.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about that, right? So we're talking about sci-fi. So for me, it starts and ends with a very cool ship, right? You gotta have a cool ship. No, you don't have a cool ship with some really cool tech that made me go, oh man, I want that. Then we're dead in the water. Right after that, come on, man, androids, robots. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. And a story about an android that is an actual sentient being that wants to be human, that's gonna win every time. So no disrespect to Riker, but he ain't have a shot. It was gonna be Data no matter what, because that's just cool.
It was always gonna be you, Data. It was always gonna be you.
Right?
No, like like I've always felt like Riker was a very straight Captain America-esque character, and
he's a pimp. He's a pimp. Like,
and like when the Marvel movies came out, like I was always worried at how they were going to do Captain America without making him seem like outdated, and they did a great job. So like I feel like that if that treatment can be done with Riker, I would be very excited about that. But like in my because I've only had TNG Riker. And I go like, oh, like, he's great of a time. I feel he feels a little outdated right now, but I could be wrong. Like, that's my hot freaks or
on
cold
hot freak.
hot freak on
freak.
That's right. But yeah, just my hot. Anyway, feel free to disagree, everyone. Like I feel free to like vote me off the island if you don't like any of my comments. Vote me off Risa here.
You're still miles ahead of some of the things that Grant has said, so you're safe.
The shade of it all. Okay, y'all. Was there anything else you wanted to discuss about this episode?
I mean, like, I think we've basically like elevated enough. Like, if you are if you have a lot of history with Star Trek, you will get rewarded for watching this episode.
This is true. Great episode. Enjoyed it. We'll probably watch it again.
100%.
It's interesting though. Like I compared this to the season 1 episode, and I watched that before the pod, and season 1 episode is not as thickly, it's not as dense, as far as the jokes and references. but like that Mariner fight at the end, like it puts me to tears almost. Like, it's so, especially after watching 3 seasons of Lower Decks, and then you see that Mariner fight, the holodeck Mariner fight the other Mariner, you go like, oh, this is Mariner who she truly is, that you've actually gotten to see. You just project so much on it. I was like, oh, it's so good. That's my mom. And it's just really good. So like, if I had to pick between the two, I think I'd pick the first one, just because of the emotionality of it. But like, they're both still very good, especially if you watch all 3 seasons.
The curse of the sequel strikes again.
This is like Top Gun and Top Gun 2. Like, they're both very good movies. Is that a hot take on this?
That's a hot take for me.
I'm not touching that.
Well, and there I go. It was nice seeing you guys. It was nice seeing you play 3 episodes. Like, apparently my shuttlecraft is like, ready to go through the wormhole.
No, you can have that opinion, and that is your opinion. And that's the beauty of this podcast.
Yes.
But, yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I'll be watching it again. Thank you all so much for tuning into our podcast this week. Remember, you can find us live every Thursday here on YouTube, continuing to cover Lower Decks. We got another week of solo Lower Decks, and then we've got a Lower Deck and Prodigy doubleheader coming up in 2 weeks. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple, and you can find links to everything and more at StarTrekPod.co, as well as to our Patreon. Clyde, how can people find us elsewhere on the interwebs?
Hey, then just always remember, you can check us out on Instagram or Twitter. Just head over to at StarTrekPod.co.
Just at Star Trek Pod?
Twitter. Or sorry, at Star Trek Pod. Sorry, that's don't do that. At Star Trek Pod. Shout out to Karen, who helps runs our Twitter. What's up, Karen?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.